Hey guys, Lee from the Glxy over here with a brand new video. So as promised during my last Switch haul unboxing video, I actually got the Switch Pro controller, and I'm not going to talk about the pros and cons of each of the different types of controls for the Switch. Now that I've actually spent more than a month with the Switch and have had more than enough time to play with each of the different variations. Starting off, let's start with the regular tablet gameplay. So actually this isn't too bad. If this would actually be the best method to play, if you're like on a car ride, on an airplane, stuff like that doesn't have the actual table. For example, if you're on a plane and you want to actually put the Switch on the table, that's actually a pretty good method, which I'm going to talk about shortly. But other than that, it's actually pretty good. If you're sitting down like in a park, on a car, whatever, it's actually pretty comfortable. As I mentioned in the previous video, the only thing about the actual analog sticks in the Switch is that they're pretty small, and they actually have a pretty small radius, which basically means that if you actually like to have a little bit more precision when you're actually like aiming or walking around, anything like that, it can be a little bit more difficult with the Switch analog sticks because of their size, as well as the buttons. The buttons are a little bit on the small side, but if you've gotten used to something like the 3DS, then it shouldn't be much of an issue. I've actually been able to play with it just fine. The D-pad is pretty good. I haven't played side scrollers, for example, like Shovel Knight or anything like that yet, so I'm not sure if that could be a little bit harder to play with, but I have heard that it definitely could be. Now, for example, the Switch is actually pretty dangerously addicting in the sense that I've actually been able to take this to work. They don't mind. I just take phone calls all day, so no big deal. If it's a slow day, they don't mind. The thing is, you can actually just put this in your desk or whatever, and then just sit back and remove the JoyCons. So let's talk about that method now real quick, and just stand the Switch up. Now the thing with this method is that the JoyCons are actually free to move around, as you can see. The thing about this is that if you're used to having a fixed controller, it will feel awkward at first, but after playing around with it for quite a bit, it's actually really nice and comfortable. You can just lay back, put your arm on the side, and play around with it. Other than that, it's not really bad at all. It is kind of weird during Breath of the Wild when some of the sections you have to use motion controls. The thing about that is that only one of the JoyCons has motion controls. If I'm not mistaken, I remember correctly, I believe it's the right one. So for example, if you're used to maybe moving both around, or you kind of move the wrong one, it gets confusing. If you actually try it out, you'll see what I mean. But it's no big deal. You actually get used to it pretty quick, especially when aiming the bow and arrow and stuff like that. So other than that, it's not actually too hard. It doesn't feel uncomfortable at all. I've never gotten hand cramps, and whenever you're done, you can just put them on the side, and all good to go. Then I already talked about the Switch Joy-Con grip, so that's not too different, but it is also pretty comfortable as well. But the downside, once again, is the small analog sticks as well as the small buttons. And after a while, if you do play for extended periods of time, then it is susceptible to cramping. I actually did experience it for a little bit, but no big deal. You stretch your hand a little bit and good to go. And then let me take this out of the way. And then last up, we have the Pro Controller, which is arguably, as other reviewers have said, the best controller out there right now for the Switch and in general. I mean, it does follow the design of the Xbox controller, but they did make some slight modifications to make it slightly different. But other than that, same format. The letters are on different sides, regular Nintendo. If you're used to Xbox, that could be a little bit confusing at first. But anyway, moving on in regards to why it is the best control for the Switch. So the actual buttons are slightly larger, which makes it a lot more comfortable in comparison to, here we go, to the actual Joy-Con grip. So as you can see, the difference is pretty noticeable. Then other than that, the analog sticks are also much larger, as you can see. They actually look pretty similar side by side, but they are quite substantially different in the respective sizes. The actual travel distance is a lot bigger than the actual JoyCons, so this will actually allow you for more exact position, especially when those shooters start coming out for the Switch. This is definitely the go-to controller, unless of course they let you use motion controls, which is a good alternative as well. Now the actual buttons, of course, they are they're analog, they're actually digital triggers. So that basically means they don't have the travel distance that, for example, a PS4 or the Xbox One have. So that could be a little bit of a disappointment when it comes to racing games, because you'll be limited to just on and off and not have that degree of travel. But no big deal. We'll see how that plays out when they do, if ever they come out for the Switch, which I don't think it will be such a bad thing. So then, other than that, you have your classic analog pad, analog D-pad. So that's actually pretty good as well. Other than that, I actually don't have any complaints about this control whatsoever. It's really comfortable. It falls in your hand really nicely, and it's really comfortable for extended periods of time. So definitely, as I've mentioned, I have to agree. If you're going to play for extended periods of time, this is the go-to controller. Of course, the pricing has been a bit of a debate topic in regards to if it's being too expensive in the $70 range. I think it's actually not too bad. For all that you get in this controller, it's not bad at all. For example, the PS4 controller is in the $60 range. I have seen it at Best Buy and GameStop, as well as Amazon. And it doesn't have like an NFC reader or anything like that. Actually, it has a rechargeable battery, but it lasts no more than 8 hours. Then on the other side, you have the Xbox One controller, which is pretty good as well. But then it doesn't include the actual rechargeable battery as well. So you have to use AA batteries in this time period. Okay. And then, but it's also in the $65.99 to $69.99 range. So they're not too different. So in regards to the pricing, I think it's perfectly fine with everything that it has inside. Rechargeable battery that lasts for more than 20 plus hours. NFC reader. So yeah, and actually also includes a rechargeable cable, which is pretty standard, so no big deal. It uses USB-C, so in case you were wondering, which is actually a pretty nice bonus, because if you're planning on taking the Switch on the go, it's actually a really good deal to have, because that actually gives you a actual cable to take around with you. You don't have to actually buy a USB-C cable, which before I actually bought the Pro Controller, I was actually contemplating until I actually bought the controller. I was actually holding off because once I saw the pricing for the USB-C cables, they're a little bit on the expensive side, between $10 to $20 more or less. So I wasn't really excited about having to spend that much on a USB cable. But yep, once I got the Pro Controller and actually brought that cable with it, I was actually pretty excited. So yeah, with that, I've been able to take the Switch on the go and charge it wherever. Just take one of these USB dongles that come with any USB cable charger, especially if you have a phone or like any other charging devices. I usually bring one as well, and just take it on the go and you're good to go. So yeah, I actually believe that should be it for this video, guys. I just wanted to follow up on the original Switch haul unboxing video, and yeah, provide my insight on what I believe, what I think of the different controller variation types available to use with the Switch. But other than that, I would appreciate if you guys like and subscribe this video, and also remember to follow me on Twitter for any other updates in regards to what I think of anything out there. Until next time, guys, see you later.